I'm Becky Mayer, and the name of our show is Transitions. And this is a wonderful show about transitions in your life, whether it be a transition area in a triathlon, if you're swimming, biking, running, transitions from being older, younger, babies, not babies. And we have a wonderful example of a man in transition, as always. This is Washantara. And he's an old friend of mine. We've known each other for over 25 years. And he is not only an amazing songwriter and writer and speaker, but he is an expert on men and men's circles. And I'm so glad that you are here. Welcome.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you very much. Expert. Done about expert and wonderful. We'll decide about that too. Yes, my name is Washantara, and I do those things.
Can you explain to people when we say men's work, what does that even mean? And you are Australian, and you do men's work in Australia, men's work in Nashville, Tennessee, and we don't know what that means.
Say Australia again?
Australia.
Very cute. I love the way you say it. Australia. Men's work is pretty easy. Break the thing up. You know, like men work. So, and not traditional kind of men's work as you would think of men going out to work. This is the work of reclaiming what it is to actually be a man outside of the paradigm of where we are right now as far as men. What is a man? And if you could ask you, or you could ask you, and for as many people as you would ask, especially the men, you get a different answer. Because we really don't know. We really don't know what it is we're actually supposed to be now. Mm-hmm. You know, once upon a time, the job was pretty simple, Beck. You just went to work. You come home and Dad was the guy that walked up and down the passage. You know what it's like. You know, you didn't see him much because he was busy.
And Mom stayed at home.
Mum stayed at home, and she washed and cooked and, did all that stuff. And that may not have been great, but at least everybody knew what their role was. And now it's we're not quite sure what to do, whether to fish or to cut bait. So I started the Circle of Men, and that's the name of the work here that we started in Nashville. I'm very proud of Nashville and Nashvillians. After 22 years of an open format for place for men to come and share, we've kept that flame alight for all of those years, every Wednesday night. It's a hell of an effort by the men from this community, and as a result we've had not hundreds but thousands of actualized men that are better fathers, better husbands, better lovers, and just understand what it is to be truly a man.
So could you explain a little bit more as far as it seems like the men in America, they're not being fulfilled just by going out and working, and now their wife has to work, and the wife expects more out of them. And are you saying that in your circle that it's an opportunity for the men to speak about this and feel safe about speaking? Because my experience, men typically keep it all inside, and they have no avenue to talk to other than the one person, the wife, and they talk about sports and they talk about things like that, but not any deep matters. Okay, what I was saying is that with men, typically they speak amongst themselves about sports, about football, about this, but they don't do any deep work at all, and certainly they won't do anything of the heart with other men, and maybe they might with a girlfriend somewhat, or the wife. How is that different in a men's group? And a man has to feel safe to bare his soul. How do you get safety?
Wow. What a dandy question that is. I don't know. How do you get safety? How do you get safety? Ask yourself that, fellas. How do you get safety when you've been taught to compete against every other man that you ever knew? When you rear up on your hind legs, and at 11 or 12 years old, people stop hugging you, and your sister still gets a cuddle, but you don't. It's time to be a man, and so you're cut off from that kind of intimacy and said, I'll give you something to cry about, stop that crying, be a man. And often the case now, is exasperated, Beck, because, you know, I'm not much for facts and figures, but I did read this morning in the New York Times that there are 18 million kids in this country today waking up in a fatherless home. Fatherless. So, you know, and it's not the women's fault. God bless them, they have to do everything, but I feel great empathy for those men as well, you know, because we are meant to be we're meant to be protectors. We're meant to supply a roof and have a fulfilling life as being, you know, fathers as well as husbands. And that paradigm is not working. Having to work more hours than ever, more tired, just plumb out. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. HALT. H-A-L-T. It's a lovely little...
It's a good 12-step thing.
Yeah, don't do anything. HALT. If you're hungry, well, angry, lonely or tired. It's good to remember that little footnote. So my experience with American men is they're usually one of those or many. And we've changed that somewhat by making a safe place for men just to come and sit down and say, you know, I'm really pissed about this, or I'm really happy about this, or I was shamed about being a man. You asked a really good question, Beck, earlier. Broad stroke, why? I think men, if you think that we don't really understand, especially if you're going through a divorce or you've got your boyfriend or your husband and you don't understand him, and don't be surprised about that, because we don't understand each other.
I mean men don't understand men.
No. Because that, once more, if you're not competing with a man, then you're going to have to sit and you're going to have to share what's really going on. You're going to have to look another man in the eyes and say, you know, this is how I feel, or this is what's going on for me. And there's a lot of cultural overlay, unless you're talking about something that's masculine, and to feel with that. And there's lots of inbuilt shame comes up, and now I'll just go straight ahead and say it. The word homophobia is rife in this country, and in most of the Western world. If men show any affection for each other, then they'd be suspected of being gay. And there's nothing wrong with being gay. You know, 10% of people are gay, 10% of people are left-handed. I happen to be left-handed. So it's a big one to get over. You know, in Europe it's really cool to be able to be walking down the street and seeing two men holding hands. You know, they ain't doing the deal together. They just like each other. It's a sweet thing.
I like that. I think that's great.
Too,
you don't see that in America.
Well, it's changing. It's changing. The new breed of young fellas. You know, a lot more young men and have come through initiation because of the work we do. Initiated, being separated, having little places in their life say, right, this is a place that I'm going to leave the world of my mother, and I'm going to join the men. And that really needs to happen. Traditionally, that would happen between the age of 12 and 14. And that's been happening a lot more, but it can't happen too little. You know, we have to be able to bring the young fellas into the men's camp and get them to start trusting men, and not around football and basketball, around what it is truly to be men.
I know that you had sent a wonderful picture out for one of your promotional things, I think for one of your records, that had a picture of a men's gathering here in Nashville.
Last week.
Yes, that was, God, it looked like 50 men. And it was a shot from above, like in a big lodge. And they were in a big circle, and it was the most beautiful thing. All these men of all ages, all together, looking stately, and you just felt like an energy of peace. And I thought, wow, this is very powerful. You never see anything like that.
You know what that energy is called?
No.
Sovereign. You know what the word means? Sovereign?
Sovereign,
you would say.
Sovereign?
It's an accent thing. Sovereign.
Sovereign.
You know what the word means?
Sovereign? Tell me.
Kingly.
Kingly. Oh.
To stand in your power. To have some power.
Oh, yeah. It looked like they were powerful.
And you know why?
Why?
Because they supported each other. They weren't there to compete. It wasn't a big time to see who had the biggest. You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yes.
not really. It's a pleasure to be in the company of, especially greybeards, men that have been in the business of being men for a long time.
Graybeards. That means if you're over 40, you're a graybeard?
Oh man, could be.
Yeah.
Especially Obama. Look at him; he's turning grey as I watch him.
Try and be president and watch your hair turn gray.
I doubt it. I like him. He seems to be a pretty fair guy too. You know,
Yes.
regardless of politics, he's a good dad. You know,
He's a good dad.
Being a dad isn't a matter of. It's not a seminal object. You know, inseminating somebody doesn't get you the right to be a father. You earn that right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, my father earned that right for me to call him Dad.
I know that you have a couple songs that we want to hear tonight, but there's one particular that I wanted to hear now, and I think that is the one about the girls love their daddies too.
Wow, that's an interesting choice, Beck.
Yes. Because all this men's work, and of course the boys need their daddies, but the girls need their daddies too. And I think I'll let you sing it, but I think there's a very interesting line in it that is so true psychologically, and I'll let you sing and then we'll point it out.
No, why don't you point it out first?
Well, it's the idea that subconsciously, I know I certainly have done this, subconsciously you as an adolescent and then you become a teen, you subconsciously search out for somebody like your dad as your partner, and you don't even know you do it. And so it's so important to have a great role model, or you kind of make the mistakes. God, that didn't work. That's just like my dad, and that part didn't work for my mom either. But it was unconscious. So I think it's an important thing that people know that the dad is so important in your life growing up and is a model, an unconscious model for who you choose.
Yeah. And so that whole story is how this song come about. I just finished. One of the things that I ask Becky when I work is I ask all the men in the audience, how many younger men have you appreciated in the last 2 weeks, and told them so? Standard question. Then I ask each of the men, come on. How many out there, because we need blessing. There's two choices in this life. You either bless somebody or you curse somebody. By silently just standing there, this is where the demons grow. If somebody doesn't say, Beck, you did a really good job, thanks for doing that. Especially if you're a little Becky. I see you, I really, why don't you come out to the garage with me and I'll teach you how to drive a nail. Or, come ride with me, I'll teach you how to steer the car. This is kind of cellular download, sacredness between the sovereign energy and the littlest representative of the goddess, which could be your own daughter. And that's where she's going to get her role models of what men are, from you. Or, accordingly, and this is the great news, it doesn't have to be, if you're in a situation without dad around, you can enlist lots of great men. Just like me, for instance, I don't have children. People come up to say, Wash, could you turn up? And I say, heck yeah, I'll turn up. Tell me when, tell me where. I have a goddaughter right now, and it's the greatest thing in my life to be able to give time to a 4-year-old girl. And to get over the fear, because we live in a fear-based culture here about weird stuff. If you're a man with a young girl, it's like, well, there's all this weird stuff you have to get around because of the sexuality and, not inherent in us as men, but culturally laid on us. And that's complete crap. There is this much risk. There is this much fear. It's not, it just sells papers. I'm not suggesting that we should be stupid, but to be scared of every man as a potential child molester, it's just ruining our culture.
I agree.
Okay. Off my soapbox now. This is called Little Girls Need Their Daddies Too by Wash and Tara. I'll bet you cry, Cynthia. Sitting on the front porch in her old rocking chair, I sat down beside her. She reached out her hand, she said, "Son, it's about that little girl in there. Lately I've been thinking, she's been thinking you don't care. You're a busy man, got a lot on your plate. And it's time I said what I need to say. Little girls need their daddies too. See them big eyes looking up at you. You're the kind of man she'll someday choose. Little girls need their daddies to be there. Show a little tenderness, comb her hair. Ask any woman, she'll tell you. Little girls need their daddies too. Son, you don't have to be so careful. You know that she ain't gonna break. Take her out on the job someday. Show her how to drive a nail. Teach her that she's capable and strong like you. Hold her tight when she cries. That's what daddy's meant to do. You know, before too long, she'll be up and gone. Son, I'm asking you to show her you know. Little girls need their daddies too. See them big eyes looking up at you. You're the kind of man she'll someday choose. Little girls need their daddies to be there. Show a little tenderness, comb her hair. Ask any woman, she'll tell you. Little girls need their daddies too. Son, I can't tell you how much that's true. And she said, this old girl is telling you. Little girls need their daddies too. Yeah, they need their daddies too. They need their daddies too. Yes, they do.
Woo!
You're the kind of man she'll someday choose.
You're the kind of man you someday will choose.
You're the kind of man you'll someday choose. They'll? You'll, I forgot. One of them. Anyhow, you know what I mean. That's the good news or the bad news.
Right, right. So it's important to have a daddy that's there and a male figure that's there.
It's important for the mum.
Yeah?
God, she didn't sign on to be mum and dad.
Yeah, but there's so many single moms.
I empathize. I empathize with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the most underrated. Yes, I do men's work, and the reason I do men's work is to make your jobs easier. It's the most underrated job in the world.
Being a mom.
My mum. This is my mum, right here. Sylvia Florence.
And you wear her wedding ring.
Yeah.
And on the wrong hand. Now,
Yeah.
tell us why.
Well, my mum passed on 24/7 last year. Well, that's the way she loved as well. She loved 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Oh.
And when she passed, I used the word passed then rather than passed. I'm turning into an American! My brother resized the ring for me and I popped it on my finger, and that's my tribute, my living tribute to my mum, Sylvia, right here on my finger.
Wow.
And it's also, I wear this to have courage when I'm working, because I do men's work, yes, but the next thing, Becky, is that we have to integrate as men and women for so many reasons, and not on Facebook or not on Match.com.
We are sharing this with whoever turns us on right here.
You turned me on.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that you came. Yes.
Thank you, honey.
Wow. Now let's talk a little bit more about the men's circle and older men. And I believe in Australia you have been helping older men in their transitions from being young lads to older to what do you do when you're 80? Can you explain a little bit about what's going on in Australia about that?
You bet. I started with my friend Mike Tarlow in Australia. I went, I've always worked with elders because a society that ignores its elders does so at its own peril. Because the people that make the choices, where are we talking? The people that make the choices are often infantile and not making choices from a sovereign place. So there's any,
Kingly now.
Kingly.
Yes. Sovereign place.
Yeah. Well, look at America in the last, we've had 2 presidents, this one and the one before the last one, have both said that they've spent their presidency trying to impress their mum.
Oh, wow.
Because they grew up fatherless.
Huh.
So, you want to get to the point of it. That unfolds in many different formats, and one of the things that happens for older men as they get older, that not having the ability to communicate, to reach out and say, I need some help. Could somebody help me here? I'm alone. I'm lonely. My wife has died. She used to be in charge of the intimacy. She was the woman who did it all as far as feelings were concerned. In my grandfather's time, Jack, emotions didn't even exist, Beck. There was no such thing. How you feeling? I'm either angry or I'm happy. No grey.
Wow. Wow.
And these old fellas, a lot of them went to war. And they come back different men. The same as what's going on now, tragedies.
In Afghanistan.
We have never learned a damn thing. So, but anyhow, as they get older, they find themselves, the men find themselves isolated and lonely. And all that macho stuff about, I'm here to make the bucks. I'm here, goals. That works until you're 40. After that, you go, wow. Quite sure. Like I've got $1 million in the bank, or I've got nothing in the bank. They both have got problems. And 10 minutes and then we're done? Wow, that was quick. So anyhow, aged care. Social isolation and loneliness in old men in the society is terrible. Highest suicide rate in the country that I live, Australia, is men 70 years and older. Successfully top themselves.
Wow.
They don't muck around. Not like teenagers when they say, I'm going to kill myself, and then don't.
They really do it.
I'm not suggesting they really get it done. Their success rate is high.
Wow.
And so what we do is the Circle of Men Outreach is 5 days a week we go and work with men in aged care. And we have a group of men come together and simply share. It's not rocket science to touch another man and say, how you feeling? And sometimes men that haven't talked for years, Beck, we'll all be singing a little song and they'll just all of a sudden start coming back into the world because they feel loved, they feel appreciated. And now the Australian government has climbed on board, and the Circle of Men Outreach is sponsored by the local councils and government, so they fund us and help to nurture the elderly men, because mostly aged care in America and Australia is run for women by women.
Right. You have women healthcare workers.
Yes,
right.
Because they're the only ones that'll work for that wage.
Right, that's true.
Bottom line,
yeah.
Which is a terrible thing, and you do a great job, fabulous job, but the money ain't great.
So you go into the senior citizens' homes and talk to the men and have them sing songs? You get them to do it?
We make communities. We make tribes. A lot of these men will live next to each other for years and never know each other's name. It's like, hey, brother, how you doing? We sit there, we've been knowing each other for 10 years, man, and we've never even said hello.
Oh, that's sad.
Sad, beyond sad. And out of 100 women, there would be 8, 9 men. And mostly they're just waiting to die.
God.
So we go in there and cheer them up.
And you sing songs with them?
We just do what I told you.
What?
Loving is not rocket science.
You just love them?
Just love them. Touch them and love them.
It's
a whole new paradigm, and there's a book being written about the Circle of Men Outreach right now. It's a new paradigm. What do? Nothing. We don't do a thing. We just turn up and are available. We're there to share with whatever they want to do. They're too old to be, going out and doing things. Their days of doing is over. Their days of being wise sovereigns. We could do well by listening to these old fellas. We've got our true teachers in aged care everywhere. If you want some wisdom, or if you're feeling a bit lost, instead of going to your psychiatrist, paying $150, go to your local, what do you call them here? Nursing home?
Convalescent home?
Convalescent home. Say, is there anybody lonely who would like me to talk to them? See how that feels. So that, that is my passion. You can see I love to work with it's the non-sexy end of life. It's also the non-sexy end of getting care.
It's like being back to being a baby because somebody has to wipe your butt and pick up your drool. And
when I stand up in front of, I'm doing the Rotaries, 5 minutes, great. When I do Rotary next week, I'll stand up and say, I need a volunteer to come up on stage and I'd like to have to, for me to wipe your butt.
Oh, God.
Gets their attention, man.
God.
Because at some stage or other, these big suits and the perfect ties, and both women as well in their power suits and ties,
right?
It all goes away.
Right.
And what are you left with?
Wow.
You better have done some recovery.
Wow.
You better have done some recovery to know the condition of your soul.
Yes. I've seen, too, that I've run into a number of very successful financially men that at a certain point in their mid-40s or 50s, they got it all. Their marriages fell apart after 25 years, and now they're kind of back to square one going, what's it all about?
And worrying about their prostate.
And worry about their prostate, exactly. I've met a lot of men like that lately.
Yeah, well, welcome to life.
Yes, well, it's very interesting.
The BS goes away. Life will have its way.
Thank you very much for being with us today. And if people want to get more of your music, it's
washantara.com.
washantara.com.
Or on Facebook. Or you can grab it on YouTube. We've got 1 minute to go. Wow,
all right.
Man. Wasn't she great? Isn't this fun? Being in transition.
Being in transition. Stay tuned. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's Becky Mayer. See you next time. Thank you.
Aloha.